So welcome to the mindfulness presentation by Dave Green of Natural Self. Obviously, I'm Dave Green. I run a company called Natural Self and I teach a wide range of different courses for mind, body and spirit. Today's presentation is really about introducing you to the concept of mindfulness and why it's so important for every aspect of our life, personality, well-being and business. For me, mindfulness is a concept I've been involved in for over 40 years. The term mindfulness is reasonably modern. It's more the last 30 years it's really been used. But the idea of being totally aware or completely in tune with ourself, the greater self, the parts of ourself that argue with each other, and the actions and behaviors that we achieve is very much intrinsic to the way that I work in everything that I do. When it comes to us as therapists, it's actually a really easy way for us to identify our own self-limiting beliefs and the factors that stop us from being as successful as we may otherwise be. So regardless of whether you're trying to sort out your own mental health, your business practice, your personal skills, or anything else that's going on around you, understanding the basics of mindfulness is a really intrinsic way of creating deep underlying changes. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is many different topics or concepts that all come under one umbrella, really. But overall, it's about being in the moment and being completely focused to the exclusion of all else upon a singular idea or belief until that idea or belief has been achieved. Now, that seems like a massively difficult concept, but actually the easiest part of that is the doing. The hard part is clearing out all of the limiting beliefs, the fears, the guilt, the doubt, so that the action and energy that we're creating every single moment of every day is directed towards the singular goals or purposes that we then choose to set it upon. The basics are simple, the results are massive, but practice and ongoing work with it will empower or create change quicker and easier each time that you perform it. So simple ideas and skills I'm going to give you across in this little presentation are there to introduce you to this idea. I do run quite longer versions of meditation and mindfulness workshops so that you can then use the skills and techniques understanding the philosophy and psychology behind them. But for this presentation, it's more about just taking some of the very, very basics and being able to make them real or intrinsic to your own practice. So the biggest one that you first have to understand is what we think we become. Whatever is going on in your mind, both the conscious and the subconscious parts, has a huge effect on yourself in every way, shape and form. Your personality, your body shape, your illnesses, your health, your wealth, your well-being, your relationships, your family, your business, your career, they all have mental components to them. Those components, when controlled and directed in positive senses, can help us to grow and expand. When they are negative or self-depreciating, they limit us or hold us back, or worse still, destroy the things we're trying to create. Using the skills of mindfulness and focus, we can actually create positive opportunities to create and manifest changes that are both within the remit of what we expect to achieve and further and beyond those limitations that we thought we had. You know, for myself this year, I set myself the goal of earning a minimum of £1,000 a week for the first 26 weeks of the year. Hadn't achieved it before, didn't think I'd want to, but actually it was time I set myself some new goals and got on with it. So far, and we're nearly in April now, haven't failed yet. Because once we get this programming correct, even if we're letting ourselves flag on the conscious mind level, the subconscious mind level using the mindfulness techniques will constantly revisit and revitalize that change within ourselves. So when we understand this, the power of the mind can be used to change anything and everything about us and our lives. All we have to be able to do is accept those changes and the difficulties they may bring for us or others as we choose to positively change. Sometimes our brains will fight back. Sometimes people in our lives will fight back. Sometimes fear will try to stop us from achieving it. All of these can still be controlled, directed, or changed without hurting or causing damage to ourselves or others. And it can be as little as 2 to 3 minutes a day. So many people, when they think of mindfulness, actually think of meditation. They are not the same thing. Mindfulness is one part of meditation, but meditation itself is a much bigger topic and concept. And meditation in its own right is an umbrella term for many different ideas and practices that are both spiritual and non-spiritual in the way that they engage mental activity to focus on changing our lives or actions for positivity. In general, most people see meditation as a way of trying to decrease stress, improve health, or just create focus and direction in our busy, busy lives. But overall, it's about being centered within ourselves, understanding who we are, and engaging with the active parts of ourselves that create positivity, growth, and change. Now, for me, these have always been intrinsic to what I do, regardless of whether I knew these labels or not. Even as a child, I was a very focused person. So being able to remove procrastination, removing doubt, removing fear, being able to be in the moment and not focus on the past or the future enables us to turbocharge changes that we wish to create. Now, that is a huge concept in our lives. And if we actually stop to assess ourselves clearly, most of us are very, very good at self-sabotage. We undermine ourselves. We tell ourselves we can't achieve things. We talk ourselves out of things. We listen to other people's opinions too much, but don't actually talk about what we will or won't do in the sense that we will get off our bums and do it. So if you want to reduce your stress, you've got to create some change. If you don't change, life won't change. There are some very, very simple things we have to do. But the first is know what needs to change. Meditation as a word isn't a Buddhist belief or philosophy, which might surprise some people. Because basically, meditation literally comes from the word Latin, the Latin word meditatio, which was basically just to mean contemplate or contemplation. Now, basically, the concept of meditation is to be still with ourselves, to focus inward, to understand what it is we wish to achieve, and then outwardly express that. In the way that we modernly think about the term meditation, it was actually coined in the mid-19th century by the Theosophists, who were a secret magic society. But the modern terminology and the modern usage of it is anything where we sit, become still, or focus, removing stress for the well-being of ourselves. Most people think about Buddhism when they think about meditation, but there are many different philosophies behind it. You know, at the end of most yoga classes, you go through some form of meditation. But when you look at the Asian languages, no one word can really literally translate to meditation, because it's a whole range of practices that are brought together. You may also have come across the term transcendental meditation, but that's actually a specific trademark or registered mark in the USA, which was established by one particular Indian guru and then spread around the world and is still taught to this day in almost all countries. Meditation, I'm really going to focus on the mindfulness aspects we're focusing on in this presentation, are non-denominational, non-religious, and singularly within your own right, adaptable to be your own belief system to whatever you wish that to be. Oh, look, I forgot to take that off the other slide, but there you go. So, meditation traditionally was a religious practice, like a style of formalized prayer for centering, to try and change your energy to ascend to a higher level. Now, in the modern Western world, we often think about meditation as a way of getting grounded or rooted to ourselves, which is actually the complete opposite of the original religious belief system. Either way, the singular focus of the mind will ground us, and if you are into spiritual practices, will also help to raise your energy vibration to actually be able to ascend as well. So it can actually be used in both directions, but in order to achieve the one, you have to be the other. Now, obviously, within Christianity, we don't really have a concept of meditation per se, but prayer is a form of it, because by being mindful of our thoughts, our actions, and choosing to direct your energy towards a particular purpose, that in itself is a form of mindfulness. And within mindfulness and meditation, there is a lot of visualization. Now, visualization is the creating of imagery within your own mind, but intrinsically it is not meditation itself, and it definitely is not mindfulness. If we're filling our mind with pictures and patterns or ideas, we're not simply being, which is what the ultimate aim of mindfulness is to be. Visualization uses almost memories, recordings, feelings, or thoughts in our mind to create experiences to change the present. That in itself can actually be a distraction from the mindfulness of being in the now. They can help when you're first learning in order to achieve it, but I find overall they actually get in the way. If you're going to use anything as a way of trying to be centered so that you can focus, pranayama or breath work is some of the most simple techniques. And I will have a look at a few of those as we go through this for you to help you make sense of some of that. So I ultimately say, if you're going to think about meditation, think of it as a state of being. Visualization is a state of mind to avoid distractions by focusing on pictures. And mindfulness is to just be in the moment. So meditation is a form of trance state. So if any other people have seen any of my hypnotherapy videos before, they'll know what I mean by that. It's very much about being focused upon a singular thing. And in meditation, one of those things they focus upon is mindfulness. Often when we talk about meditation or mindfulness, people are told to clear their minds, have an empty space, and don't let themselves be distracted. Now, for most of us in the Western world, that is next to impossible. We're always thinking about something. So when you're trying to learn to be able to achieve that, sitting still for 20 minutes is pretty much a no-go for most of us. But you will get into a very similar state when you are doing repetitive household tasks like the hoovering, kneading bread, washing up, dusting. When you're not focused on anything else other than the task in hand and you daydream or switch off, that is often a state of meditation or mindfulness, because you are doing nothing and being nowhere except in that moment. So when I first got into meditation and mindfulness, the sitting still thing did not work for me at all. As you will have gathered from the speed of my speech, my mind works at 500 miles an hour. I try to slow down for these videos and I still come across as warp speed. So for me, the only way I ever really started to get a grip on my own mind and my own link between my mind and my body was working within Tai Chi and Qigong. Now, you can find lots of YouTube videos on the basics of Tai Chi and Qigong. Tai Chi is the moving of energy. Qigong is the raising of energy. Personally, you'll probably find it easier to do some good research on Tai Chi. There's a standard form called the 24 Yang form, which you can find videos of on YouTube that are broken down step by step, which will really help you to get into moving meditation. Moving meditation is about controlling and slowing ourselves down within our bodies, connecting what we're doing by thinking about each and every step so that we are mindful of each movement, each feeling, each thought. By being mindful of all of those things, we actually become what is called centered, where we lose contact with everything external to ourselves and only focus within. Being centered is the ultimate stage of self, where for the short time that we're doing whatever practice or activity it is, we're focusing completely upon nothing but one singular thing. That in itself gives us the ability to be calm, clear-minded, and active at the same time, something which most of us don't find very easy. It's the removal of all stress and the engagement of mind and body as one being, rather than the mind doing one thing and the body doing something different. You can also focus on things like walking meditation, where you literally just place your heel, roll slowly through to the toes before placing the next and continuing really slowly, walking around in circles or straight lines or patterns, but not worrying about how you're walking or what you're doing whilst doing so. That in itself are excellent ways of getting your mind-body connection. Because for those people who try sitting still meditations or mindfulness, often you start to ache very quickly if your muscles aren't very strong. And often your breath work becomes almost lost within the process of thinking about being still. To be mindful is to be in control of your mind, your body, and your energy. So moving meditations are an excellent way of making sure breath, mind, body all connect and work together to help you to achieve that overall purpose or focus. Only when you've achieved those are you more likely to be able to strengthen your body, to be able to sit still without aches or pains, so that you can then work on clearing mind meditation, which is the classic idea that most people seem to have about what it is. If you are into visualization, and as I say, it doesn't necessarily help you to clear your mind, but it can help with mindfulness. Choosing to focus on positive things, choosing to focus on seeing what it is you want to achieve, are all ways to be mindful of opportunities, mindful of change, mindful of results. The one thing to be aware of is that these should always be positive focused. There's no point looking at the past. There's no point looking at negatives. That was then, this is now, is a mindset to embrace and engage at every single stage of your life. Regardless of what difficulties, troubles, or traumas we've been through in the past, we can't change them. All we can do is make sure we don't repeat them or be involved in them again, and try to limit the damage that any emotional baggage or pain that they caused us has brought forward. We cannot, and it is not positive to try and forget the past, but we have to ensure that the past does not have a tie on the present or stop us from creating the positive future we desire. That can be a big problem in people's relationships or jobs when they've been through one in the past that was really difficult or troublesome, and creates fear about trying again with something that is similar. If we move those negative mind patterns forward, they can program us to attract negatives. So using the techniques of mindfulness and positivity to rebalance and reset ourselves, we'll try to ensure that we do not replicate patterns that otherwise we have a tendency to go round and round upon. Visualization in that respect is very positive, because if we've always had a negative situation, but we train ourselves to see it positively in our mind, we then are programming our mind that the positive aspect is there as well as the negative. The subconscious mind does not understand the difference between fantasy or reality. So if you're fantasizing about having the perfect job, your brain sees it as though you've already had it, in much the same way that it already will see the ones that were negative. Creating that counterbalance helps us to be more in the present than limited by the past beliefs. So visualization can be part of mindfulness, but the intrinsic aspect of mindfulness is to be in the moment. So the link between memories and emotion are always very strong within all of us, and they control all of our behaviors and personalities. So when we're asking ourselves or others to try and be mindful, be very aware that different things can be positive to different people. It's no good me saying to people, picture yourself on a beach. Some people might be petrified of waves because they drowned in the sea at some point and had to be dragged out. You know, it's no point saying to people, go on a cliff top walk if people are scared of heights. When it comes to visualization and mindfulness, ask people what makes them happy. Ask yourself what gives you positive energy or positive vibes. And then when you visualize that within your mind, try to make it bright, try to make it sharp, try to make it clear, and try to make it as focused as you possibly can. If you are into visualization as a way of mindfulness, make sure you're building in taste, smell, and things like that, hearing, sounds, as much as the visualization itself. Our minds work on a full body sensory experience. So we have to create the same illusion of those senses within our mind as though we're experiencing them completely from the external. So if you visualize yourself achieving the new jobs, feel the happy factor. Imagine what it's like to have that money to spend. See yourself buying the new suit to go to that job, feeling happy and excited. Don't focus on past times when it's been fearful, scared, or negative. By doing it this way, we create massive set data banks of energy that are positive. So you can help to rewrite the past energy field you had so that change becomes simpler and quicker. So what you see, you believe, and what you see in your mind is the same as what you see with your eyes to your brain. It sounds negative, but it is positive. Everything can be changed. Everything can be adapted. The only things that can't is your own mindset if you don't think you can. My attitude to that is if you want to change, you've got to change. Because every single thought in your mind is an affirmation of your own belief system. If you say to yourself, I'm not worthy, you attract things into your life that prove to you that you are not worthy. If you say, I can't find a decent partner, you will always attract negative partners to prove to yourself that you can't have a good one. Changing these language patterns internally and changing the way that we act massively changes the lifestyle that we have around us. It also intrinsically changes what we feel is important. Our subconscious mind is one of the most powerful tools, but also our most powerful enemy. We think, we act, we create. Think good, create good, act good. If you allow the negatives to be the thoughts, they will create the actions. You manifest your future by thinking about the past. Manifest the future by thinking about the future you've already dreamed of, and it will become a reality. The more you repeat these patterns, the stronger they become, the quicker the results appear. But make sure that what you're doing is working towards goals that are achievable. Now, that doesn't mean it has to be within the idea of what you can achieve right now. There is nothing to say you can't achieve £1 million in your life, unless you tell yourself you can't. But there's no point saying you're going to grow a second head or you're going to fly to Mars. They are external to the abilities of a physical human being. Your language patterns create your mind patterns create your personality and your actions. Make sure you're creating ones that you want, not the destructive ones you don't. Because if we create negatives, human beings are quite warped and we tend to focus on them more than the positives. So we always say to people, always create a gratitude sandwich. If you've had a negative, slap a couple of good ones on the end of it. If your negative attitude affects your mindset, go and do 2 positives, even if one is sit still and do nothing for 10 minutes and ignore the world. You know, in life, we've always got something to be grateful for, and gratefulness is a huge part of manifestation. Manifestation is a huge part of mindfulness. Be grateful for the fact you're alive. Be grateful for the fact you're actually not necessarily got any major illnesses or problems. Don't judge the sense of self and what's good or bad in your life based on what other people have. Simply work on the idea that every single day you can make one tiny positive change to make your life better. That might be that you decide you're going to drop a little bit of sugar from your coffee. It might be that you decide that one day a week you're going to have a vegetarian meal rather than eat meat. It might be that you decide you're going to have less alcohol. Whatever it is that you do that you think is a negative, ask yourself what you should be doing about it. And if it's nothing, don't change it. If it's making you uncomfortable, change it. But don't try to make giant leaps forward. Make them tiny steps, one at a time. With great, you know, when somebody sets out to run a marathon, they don't think about passing the finishing line. They simply think about putting one foot in front of the other. Each step in turn will get you to the end result. So self-limiting beliefs lead to self-fulfilling prophecies. What we think, we become. Think good, become good. Because what we say to others, we tend to do. What we say to ourselves, we tend to ignore. Make a habit of writing down what it is you wish to achieve. Make a habit of telling friends and family what it is you wish to do. So you become more mindful of your actions. You become aware when you're not following up on what you've said you're going to do. That way you start to create much more positive results much more quickly. You know, in terms of business as therapists, I always set myself a challenge every day of making 5 business follow-up calls or creating 5 new leads. As we know in business, with clients especially, it's easy come, easy go. Especially if you're in one of the therapies where we fix people, you're constantly looking for new clients. Now, if you do facials or relaxing treatments, often those clients can stay with you for years. But if your ultimate aim is to repair something or fix something, the aim is to not see your client again. So you have to be finding new clients. Now, if you're constantly worrying about where the new clients are coming from, you're putting a blockage up to attracting new clients. If you're actually thinking about new opportunities for clients all the time, new clients will constantly appear. So what we fear in our minds, we attract in our lives. If you fear your business isn't going to be successful, you're manifesting failure. If you fear illness, you create stress within yourself, which then creates illness. Empower yourselves. Do not disempower yourselves with these actions. What you put energy into rejecting or pushing out of your life, you actually empower because you're giving it more energy. If something's so intrinsically negative that it hurts you, remove it from your life and walk away. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Don't regret it. Regret means that gateways or doorways of energy are open to those things that you've removed. When you can simply have no feeling or no attachment to it anymore, it cannot get back into your life. That's one to ponder. So mindfulness is massively based on the power of now. You know, Eckhart Tolle wrote a fair few books on this theme, but it's a concept that existed long before the books that he wrote. The power of now is simply, if we are in the present, we are active, we are engaged. And I think a large part of the problem that most of us no longer live in the present is that lives have become too easy in some respects, which gives us far more time to analyze the past, the future, or things that aren't even real. If you go back a few centuries when people were so busy working hard just to grow food, to survive, they didn't have time to worry about TV shows, stresses, about other things happening in far-flung parts of the world. Focusing on your own bubble, your own life, the things that are engaged with you right now is the way to ensure that you minimize stress or anxiety in your own life. Stress and anxiety are wasted energy. If there's something you can do about something in your life, change it. If you can't change it, don't stress it. Sounds simple, is simple, but you may not yet believe that that is the truth. If you're living in the future too much, you're likely to be anxious all the time. What about this? What about this? What about that? What about the other? I hear these statements so many times in daily life, as well as from clients, and as well sometimes in my own head. It's good to work out plans or structures for things that are within your direct control right now. But there's no point worrying or overanalyzing things that may not ever happen. Be aware you can adapt and change in the now for anything that comes up. If you're focusing too much on the past, you're often depressed. Worrying about what you've lost, where you've been, did you do the right thing? Doesn't change anything. You can't change the past. You've got to accept it, learn from it, move on. Now, you might think that's cold, you might think that's hard. I've been through a lot of seriously bad stresses and traumas in my life. And I can honestly say, if it wasn't for this philosophy, I would probably still wallow in some of those and what they caused or hurt me with. But it still wouldn't change the now. And it stops us from then succeeding with the next batch of things we wish to achieve in our life right here, right now. Enjoy the moment, be present, because that is the only way you can create changes. We can't change the past. We can't change the future. We change the now to build the future that we desire. Learn to be. Regardless of whether you've got things about yourself you love or hate, they are still part of yourself. If you hate them that much, change them. If you don't hate them that much, stop beating yourself up about them. You are enough right now. If anybody in your life thinks you're not, kick them out your life. And that sounds harsh. Sometimes that's family. Sometimes that's relationships. But we all make choices. If our choice is to hold on to things that hurt us, the only person we can blame is ourselves. Mindfulness teaches us that everything in life is our choice. even the hurt, even the pain. Sometimes we hold on to things that hurt us because it's easier or less scary than the fear of change or the unknown. Now, if we fear the unknown, we're not building a present moment. Build the present moment, create a future that's not scary and not hurtful. That way you can be anything you wish to be. If you're allowing anybody to control your mind, your thoughts, or your feelings, you're not being true to yourself. And if you're not true to yourself, you're not mindful of your own needs, your own developments, and your own opportunities. We all have an intrinsic amount of energy. Make sure you're directing yours at yourself and not only to others. That can be especially difficult for people who are mothers, because they tend to spend a lot of their time on their children. But even if you have to, because they're young and can't yet be independent, make sure you take time out every day to just be. Even if you have to lock yourself away in the bathroom when they've all gone to bed. Take time to sit with a coffee for 5 minutes and be mindful of enjoying the time and the space. Mindfulness, for its most effectiveness, needs to be short, blunt little bits, repeated often, rather than sitting still for 20 minutes or an hour to try to achieve it. Be mindful of everything as you walk, see, hear, and feel on your way to work, shopping, living, anything. Don't focus on the negatives in life. If you're out and it's a thunderstorm, focus on the fact there's still flowers. Focus on the fact the lightning can be beautiful. You know, if we only focus on the negatives in life, we feel negative, we attract negative. So, easy ways of getting this back into your mind. Focus on the breath, focus on the body, focus on your space or bubble or environment around you. You are responsible for everything that happens in your own life. The easiest and simplest way of getting in tune with yourself is to practice what the Buddhist philosophy calls pranayama, or breath work. Focus on how long it takes you to breathe in and how long it takes you to breathe out. Count your breath in, hold it, count your breath out, and repeat. Now, whilst you're doing that, your mind is actively counting, your body's actively breathing, and you're not worrying about your shopping list. You're not worrying about where this talk's going. You're not worrying about anything else that's going on in your life, because for the short time you do that count in, count out, you are mindful. You are in the moment. You are present. You are removing negativity. Now, doing that constantly will get your body more energy, because you're breathing in oxygen, which helps to remove carbon dioxide, which also helps you to energize the mind. The mind being more energized helps you to focus more clearly. Being focused more clearly helps to remove sluggishness, helps us to remove anxiety, depression, and stress. Being more focused on that helps us to then clean up the space around us, making sure that things change. You know, if you're a person who's allowed your life to get a little bit cluttered, and your home to become a little bit messy or cluttered, start by changing one bag or one box a day. Don't say I'm cleaning out the whole of the garage, say I'm doing one bag. If you achieve 2 bags, that's great. Set yourself a target of little. If you go above it, it's better. But be focused on a singular action, not a lot of them at once. Focusing on doing one tiny thing at a time means that massive things get done. If we focus on doing massive things, we often find excuses and reasons why we can't do it, and therefore nothing occurs, and often the negatives actually perpetuate and get bigger. Any task that you're doing with regards to positive change should never take more than 20 minutes. Personally, I would say keep it as low as 3 to 5, because that way you know you can fit at least 3 or 4 examples of it into every single day. Because there's no point thinking about being mindful if you don't actually sit and be it. So it brings us back to terminology again, centering, grounding, and protection. And most people have come across these terms before. If you look at any websites about mindfulness, they'll always go on about being grounded or protected. Now, many of them go into visualizations about roots to the floor, bubbles around yourself. Now, personally, I say avoid them like the plague. Because if you're actually focusing on visuals, They actually make you go into your intellectual body. They bring you up into the mind's energy rather than the physical bodies. To be centered is to be in the moment with the mindfulness we've just discussed. To be grounded is to let go of any excess energy, thoughts, feelings that no longer serve the purpose of being in the moment. And to be protected is to shield our energies from the things that are happening around us. So to be mindful, make sure you've turned off your phone. Make sure the kids are out the house or giving you some space. You know, be mindful of every opportunity that you can to be in the moment, even if that's counting the floor tiles as you walk down a corridor, counting your breaths, you know, counting the windows as you walk past houses. All of these things are actually ways of being mindful about where you are. Noticing each flower growing out the cracks in the pavement, noticing the sunshine over your head. Focus on things that are good, not things that are bad. Because a huge part of mindfulness is learning to know what makes us feel better and what pulls us down. The hard part is then learning to let go of the things that cause the negative aspects. If we wish to grow, we have to let go. You can't move forward into a positive life carrying the baggage of the past. You can't enter a new relationship judging it by all the crap that the person before you put you through. You can't go into a new job worrying if the new boss is going to be as bad as the last one, because you will manifest that energy. If you choose to change, your life will change with you. But if you wish to achieve it, you have to first of all believe it. So hopefully we've given you a few ideas about what you can achieve with simple, focused 2 or 3 minute bursts of mindfulness. If you constantly look for the positives in your life, you train yourself to look for positives. And then your subconscious mind learns to actively seek positives. Being in the moment is an excellent way of letting go of the past. And being in the moment is an excellent way of stepping stoning yourself into your future. Always have a goal about what you wish to achieve, but learn to let it be flexible. Sometimes we set off hoping or thinking we wish to be something, and then change our mind as experiences that we go through teach us differently. Don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to let go. Now, I do teach mindfulness workshops and courses. I do teach mindfulness facilitator training courses as well. If you want any information about any of my courses or workshops, follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Natural Self UK. Drop me an email at dave@naturalself.co.uk and have a good look at my website. Feel free to contact me with any feedback. And if you do need any help or support, just let me know and I'll do my best to help you in any way that I can. Thanks for watching.